friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. Out here bright and early. Actually, it's dark and early. The sun hadn't come up yet. Got a lot to do today, and so I knew I'd have to get this video out early if it was going to get out. So I'm dedicated to getting them out for you. I really appreciate all the great feedback. You guys have just been awesome. Got a couple of quick notes here. Let me just tell you that today's video, it's a short video, I believe. It's only about 30 minutes unedited. So after I edited it, probably only, 15 minutes roughly. It's on a Kentucky KM1050. I think you'll enjoy the video. I wanted to take just a second, read a couple of quick notes. Michael Torres sent me a mandolin last summer. I think he says here it was an Eastman 615. And he just wanted to compliment me on the work I did, the new bridge and nut. He says, I especially like your settings on the string pairs closer together. Now I can get my G's with my pinky without it slipping in between them. Among other advantages, which are many, he says. So thanks for the good work. So thank you, Michael, for the business. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you're happy with it. I do get a lot of other notes. I just happened to pick this one out. I don't know why. I just did. So thanks to everybody else that has sent notes in. I really do appreciate it. It's always wonderful to hear that you like how your instrument is set up. I got another note here from Steve Clark, and it says, thanks for your videos. They have inspired me to do my own guitar work and build a kit mandolin. I'm glad to hear that. He goes on to say, as a 20-plus year veteran music teacher, on brass, guitar, and bass, I know better than to try to teach myself without some good professional input. So I bought your DVDs. I very much appreciate your approach to the Nashville number system. It's very similar to the classical music theory that I teach. Your insights taught me a few things I hadn't noticed before. That said, I'd like to suggest that you put out a video either on DVD or download that shows my approach to playing melodies on the mandolin, perhaps covering the scale patterns that you use. Okay? Well, Steve, I appreciate the note. Thank you very kindly. And it's nice to hear that even a 20-year veteran music teacher can learn something from little old me. I will openly admit, and I hope you don't anybody take this wrong, I openly admit that I actually probably know less about formal music in terms of scales, in terms of notation, all of the formal stuff. I probably know less about that than anybody that plays music these days, because I know nothing about it. I heard the terms. I've heard treble clef and 16th notes or whatever. I've heard those terms. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they mean. I don't know what they do. But I do think I have a method for teaching mandolin, and of course I do have my DVD set out. That it's a 3 DVD set that teaches my approach to understanding music, really. Not just playing mandolin, but it really helps you understand music and play the mandolin and chord the mandolin really well. But it doesn't teach lead. So Steve has encouraged me, and many other people have encouraged me to get my lead DVD out. Well, I'm going to make this official so that I have to do it. I'm going to announce that I am going to get a lead DVD out in the near future. I'm going to start working on it, make it a priority, and get it out. I do have some real good ideas about it. It's something I can explain to you. It's not, if you're expecting it to be, here's how you play note for note, that's not what it's going to be. What it's going to be is how to play lead on any song you hear. And you think, well, it'd be easier to teach note for note on one song. Well, it would be, but that doesn't help you in your overall playing, in my opinion. In other words, if you don't know how to play XYZ song, then you can't play it in a jam. Well, the way I teach it, the way I understand it, and I don't mean to make this sound like a brag, but just about any song you hear, you should be able to play lead to it. In fact, people come up to me all the time and they say, I know you just heard that song for the very first time right here. How did you know how to play lead on it? Well, my approach is different than everybody else's, and believe it or not, I think it's actually a lot simpler than everybody else's approach. At least I think it is. And most people I've taught feel the same way. So I think you'll enjoy the lead DVD when I get that out. Let's get into the video on the Kentucky Mandolin 1050. Thanks for watching. Hello friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. We've got a Kentucky mandolin in today. And let's see what model it is. It says it's a KM1050, I believe. It's like a serial number. If I can read it, it's hard to read. The first number is either a 1 or an 8. Believe it or not, it's hard to tell. It's so blurred. But it's 7060200. So I don't know what that first one is. I'm assuming it's a 1, but it does kind of look like it could be an 8. It's just a fat thing that's just kind of squiggled. This has a radius fretboard. It's got a wooden bridge on it there. It appears to, be ebony, of course. The action on this is beyond crazy low. Let me show you what I'm talking about. It is actually tuned up to pitch, or keep in mind, this has been sitting, as you know, I've had a long hiatus here in the shop trying to get caught up with projects on the farm. So this has been sitting a couple of months in the case, but I have not touched it. This is the way it came. So anyway, when you can tell it's up to pitch. It's a little bit flat, but that's to be expected after sitting for a month or two. But look at the action on the strings. This is a thin pick. This is a 18 thousandths pick, and it's lifting the strings at the 12th fret. It literally is lifting all of the strings at the 12th fret. Not the bass side, but all three of the others. It literally won't go under there. You have to lift the strings up to get it to go under there. So that is exceptionally low. I think we're doing just about right when you have this is a 1.14 at the 7th fret, and that won't even start under there. I mean, literally will not start under there. I'm going to look down the fretboard here to just see what it looks like. Looks real flat. As a matter of fact, right about here, there's a very slight overbow in it, right about in here on the treble side. On the bass side, very slight overbow right in here, but it's even less than this side. This side here, you can see this side. It's in there, but it's not very bad. So what we're going to do, it looks to me like the truss rod would be just about right on it to me. I can see the faintest hint of an underbow in here, and that's perfect. You just don't want to see much. And the action at the 1st fret looks crazy low too, to be honest. We may have to make a new nut because I literally can't even get the 18 thousandths to start. It'll start under on the bass side, but it's tight there. It won't even go under the others without really lifting the strings up. Now, granted, when we raise this up to the proper height, that may fix this, or it may improve it a lot. So I'm not even going to worry about all that yet. First thing I'm going to do is take strings off of it. I'm just going to make sure there's no high frets. We'll work on that first. I didn't really mention it, but this mandolin's in for the full meal deal setup. I like how they did this, but it'd be hard to duplicate. They scalloped this down and they left the wire tang in here, and I think that looks kind of cool, but I'm not sure how they did that. So I don't think I want to deal with that. I would ordinarily pull these frets out and scallop it further, but it won't match this, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to leave it like it is. At least this is scalloped, so that's fine. Okay, I'm going to level this out. I like to just rub it across here. I can instantly feel where there's high frets when I do that. Right in here, I'm hitting, as a matter of fact, right there, I can even see it. It takes off some. There's a high fret right there. I can literally feel it instantly as I just rub this down through there. And I can also see it, because I can see it's taking it off on a few of these frets right in here and here. It's skipping a fret here, but it's... Anyway, that's how I do it. And because this is a radius fretboard, you have to, keep your file going in that radius. It's already feeling better. Just a little bit of filing and I can feel a big difference. It's gliding now. It's hardly catching anywhere now. Okay, we didn't have to take a ton off, but we took off enough. We got all those high spots out of the way, and the file glides down through there real nice now. So what we'll do now is we'll recrown this really, lightly. It doesn't need a ton, but we'll recrown it a little bit and go from there. These frets are a little bit of an in-between size. They're just a hair bigger than the small frets, but they're not as big as like a small guitar fret. I mean, they're somewhere in between there. My little file is just barely big enough to go over these. That's pretty nice. This is 600. It just really polishes it. It does not leave any scratches. People say, well, what about bending strings? Won't you feel that? You do not feel it. I promise you, you cannot feel that. This stuff is so fine. It just leaves a nice, like a satin sheen on all of the frets. They look like they're brand new. Now, sure, it scuffs up the fingerboard, but in most instances, that's kind of a good thing because I can see all the defects in the fingerboard. In this particular case, probably wouldn't have had to level this fingerboard because it looks like it's pretty new, but, it's just is what it is. So we will go ahead and clean up the fingerboard a little bit, but it won't take much. And again, because it's radius, I go across that radius. There actually are a couple of low spots that I didn't even notice. This tailpiece had a piece of leather glued onto it right here, and a lot of times they're just sitting there loose, but this one's glued on, so I'm just going to leave it there. That's fine. I use felt, but leather's just as good or better. And anyway, the only thing was that it had slipped down, so I undid this end right here and slid it up and stuck it back down. So that's in good shape there now. I will put some felt under this so that that'll nestle the strings between the leather and the felt, and then that way they won't buzz at all. Got the piece of felt stuck on there, and now the strings will be sandwiched between there, and that'll make that even quieter there. The bridge, this is the G side of the bridge, and you can see how it is much higher on this side than this side, but both of them are raised up already a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a deer antler saddle on here. I think my saddle will be taller from here to here, and therefore I think that's going to raise the strings up a little bit, which should be good because this is definitely low at this point. I have my deer antler saddle on top of the bridge now. I've raised the feet of the bridge up because I know they've got to be higher. My saddle's a little bit taller, so I'm hoping it doesn't have to be raised up as much as it otherwise would. And I think at that height there, the bridge still seems stable, so I'm hoping that's going to be close. That's just a guess at this point, obviously. Now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put on the GHS silk and steel strings. These are the LS250. I sell those on my website. I think these are the best string you can get for the buck in terms of deepening the tone on a mandolin. This one here seemed to have a little bit of a thin tone, though it was difficult to say, and I didn't change it around because the setup was so low. But it did seem to have a little bit of a thin sound, so I think this will help it. I know it won't hurt it. I got the strings on it. It's roughly in tune. One of the things that I'm noticing, it's bothering me a lot, is this nut. I think it might even be mother of pearl. I'm not really sure. If that or it's a good fake plastic, one of the two. But I'll know that here in a minute when I start filing. But this is sticking out, I mean, almost like a needle. It's just sticking out really sharp. I don't know if you can see that in the camera or not. Probably not. But this point is just sticking up there really high and hard and just really catches your hand. So I'm going to take, now there's a smooth side on the edge on this file, so I'll put that smooth side down so I don't scratch the binding or the fretboard. And I just take the corner here and just knock it off. I'm noticing, didn't notice this before, there's some very, very fine hairline cracks down through this fretboard. And the only reason I notice it now was because some of the linseed oil is starting to ooze out a little bit there that I had in there. And that may be because there's string tension, put a little more tension on the neck. But anyway, that looks fine. It's not, I don't think those cracks are of any big concern. Sounds pretty good. I think the action's pretty close. It might be a hair high. I may lower it a little bit yet. See, you can always lower it with the tension on there. As long as you're not going up, as long as you're going down with the threads, you can lower it because that doesn't hurt anything. In fact, it's almost better to set your action with the tension on there. Now that just barely raises the bass strings. That's about where I want it. Treble strings are still going in the air, so let me lower those down here. Oops, wrong pick. It's just snug, maybe starting to raise it. I'm going to take it down just a little bit more. That's pretty good. Could go down even a hair more just because I know this is a fairly new player and you know, might as well get the action as low as we can. That's pretty good. Alright, we'll tune it one more time and we'll bring you back and play it for you. Okay. I know I've said how to set intonation many times in the videos, but I just do it again, just very quick explanation. You first note your top, you first tune your top string and your bottom string to their pitch. So here's a G and here's an E and you get them to perfect pitch. Then you note them at the 12th fret and you note each one at the 12th fret. And if the note is sharp, if the note is sharp, then this distance is too short. If the note is flat, then the bridge is too far back. That's the way I remember it. Sharp is short, and flat is too far back. So you got to, you just got to adjust your bridge till you get it just right. Now, a rule of thumb for people that want to adjust bridges, if you don't have any clue at all, it's basically the same distance from your nut, from the inside edge of your nut to your 12th fret. Should be the same distance approximately as the distance from the 12th fret to your saddle. So here we got, let me see here, let's just do millimeters. 17.5 millimeters roughly, and it's almost identical, 17.5.6. Actually, this was a hair strong on the 5, so it's almost identical. So you can use that as a rule of thumb. You pick a spot on your 12th fret there that you're looking at, like the front edge is what I'm looking at. And that's on this side 17.6, and on this side it's actually a hair more on this side. For whatever reason, it's actually about 18. Now, every mandolin's going to be a little different. Every instrument you set your intonation on is going to be a little different, but that'll give you a ballpark of where to put your bridge to begin with. Well, let's see what this KM1050 sounds like. I'm pretty happy with it. It feels good, and I think it's got a nice mellow sound. got a nice sound. Plays real good. Plays like butter. I know you don't know this because you're only going to see this clip, but this is the third time I've attempted to play this. Let's see if I get interrupted again. Here's one I haven't played in a long time. I call it Washington County. Very loud mandolin, very punchy mandolin. I think it's real nice mandolin. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.